This is the down jacket that your rich neighbor wears when it's cold outside. The question is why? Looking at a jacket that is the same size, the same weight, the same thickness, this jacket is warmer, more wind resistant, more water resistant, more comfortable, down doesn't leak out of it, and it has stretch. Most importantly though, new jackets have this weird square pattern on them and they generally look different. Why is that? What is that? And on the complete other end of the spectrum is another jacket that I bought, because I bought 11 jackets for this video to show you. Actually, scratch it because I left that one at home because it didn't fit me that well. What you're seeing right now is a B6 jacket from the company Outerwear. First introduced in 1939 and not changed ever since. The B6 bomber is a lighter weight version of the B3 bomber. I like the B6 better. That was commonly used during World War II for pilots that were training in open cockpit planes. Notoriously hated by Oke of Fjallraven because it was very heavy and all this other stuff, but notoriously loved by Michael of the Iron Snail. And this jacket I do have, hold on, this is a 1962 Eddie Bauer K2. This is really the first ever purpose-built expedition parka in existence by Eddie Bauer when Eddie Bauer was the king of down jacket makers. All of these jackets are very cool, very fantastic. This is obviously my favorite one, but the true goal of this video is to make a guide on how to get a warm, affordable, cool jacket. We've done an absolute butt ton of videos on winter jackets, but never a basics video on what makes a good winter jacket and how to stay warm. So that's this video. Welcome to class, everybody. Hope you're doing well. We at Iron Snail Industries have created what we like to call the Winter Jacket Selection System. This is the entire system and the entire course in one easy video. All you have to do is watch it. Layering, typically the answer to all of your outdoor woes. If you are too hot when you go outside, probably because of your layering. If you're too cold, probably because of your layering. And the thing that I usually find too sometimes is if you just hate the cold, it's probably because you don't have a good mitten or hat system or layer system in general. It's usually not the last piece of your outerwear. Last piece of your outerwear, does that make sense? You can break your layering system down to 3 pieces. You have your base layer, you have your mid layer, and you have your outer layer. Your base layer is exactly what it sounds like. That is the section that I look like one of those airplane people. That is the section that is close to your base, to your actual body. So it's very soft, usually very stretchy. Its job is to wick moisture, be very breathable, but it's not supposed to be super warm. Your base layer could come in synthetic or wool or synthetic wool blend. Synthetic is usually polyester because polyester absorbs virtually no water, so it will just wick moisture away and then dry really, really fast. The number one complaint about synthetic stuff though is that you can stink way quicker. Synthetic fibers and fabrics and stuff as a whole have a ton of money and research going into them. You can use insanely fine yarns because of the strength, but there are some great things with natural fabrics that polyester and synthetic materials can't naturally emulate on their own. So to work around that, brands will coat the fabric in things like heavy metals and chemicals and stuff like that to make them more odor resistant or antibacterial or things like that. Wool does absorb moisture, but it has a tolerance of absorbing moisture. It still insulates when wet. It's naturally bacteria resistant. It's naturally anti-odor. It's naturally flame retardant. There's a bunch of good things with it, but it is more fragile. So usually a blend is the best choice here. Polyester, spandex, and wool, or some mix of everything. Something you'll also see right now is mesh-based layers are very trendy, aka fishnets. People are walking around in fishnets and they're noting that they are warmer and more breathable. So they're the best of both worlds. That's if you layer properly, not just, you can't just walk out here in fishnets and be like, wow, this is so much better than my jacket. Here's a fun game. Let's see if we're thinking the exact same thing. I'm thinking, wow, I wish I could rub deodorant across my entire body right now. And luckily I can. And you can too. This video is sponsored by Mando. Mando was created by a doctor in a lab after she became fed up with how bad her waiting room smelled. I'm just kidding, that's not what I wrote down. Mando was created by a doctor in a lab because she was seeing how regularly body odor was being mistreated, underdiagnosed, and basically ignored. So she did something to fix it. Mando is a high-performance body deodorant that you could wipe, spray, roll, or rub. And they gave me a whole list of places that they suggest you use it, but my mom watches these videos, so I'm going to give you those places in a code that you have to decipher yourself. You can use Mando on your butt, on your belly button, or anywhere in between those 2 places that might come up. It's clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone, and you can choose from 4 scents: bourbon leather, clover woods, Mount Fiji, and Pro Sport, and also 1 scent. Mando is skin safe, baking soda free, cruelty free, vegan, pH optimized to use anywhere in your body, paraben free, and it doesn't stain your clothes. Mando's starter pack bundle is a spanking good deal. You get a whole stick of body deodorant, a cream deodorant, or a spray deodorant, and 2 free extras like a body wash and wipes, and free shipping if you're in the United States of America. Oh, and one last thing. Do you want $5 off? Then check out the link in my description and use code IRONSNAIL. That's 40% off in total. Holy crap, what an amazing deal.
I got you with the coupon codes. Mando's got you everywhere else between your butt crack and belly button. All right, see ya.
Similar conversation when we're talking about mid layers, except obviously these are beefier layers. This is the majority of what you'll be wearing. If you're going for a hike, you're probably going to be in your mid layer until you stop somewhere. Then you will put on your outer layer because you're not doing a lot of active movement, so you will get cold. You will get cold really fast. Obviously, the Patagonia fleece is an icon. Same with North Face. That is how those brands got their start, from synthetic fleece. So thank you, Malden Mills. Shout out Boston. I'm from Cape Cod, but close enough. You can do that, and it has all the same benefits as a synthetic base layer that we talked about before, but you can also dive into the world of a wool sweater. I'm currently wearing a synthetic mid layer, which you're probably like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Listen, I'm at my parents' house. I'm on Cape. I'm relaxing. Chances are, if you knock on the door at my parents' house and I answer the door, I am wearing Christmas tree pajamas, an Avengers t-shirt, and I haven't showered in 3 days. What's really important is the weight of the overall fleece and then the stitch of the overall fleece. If you have an effective layer on the outside over your fleece, that loft that you're getting from, if we're looking at sweatshirts, for example, Billy Goat version 1 is a jersey stitch, very flat. Billy Goat version 2 is a thermal knit. It's higher, you have a higher loft, and if you have a layer over that, stopping air from moving, that becomes a very, very warm sweater. The cool thing about layering is that you really can take that philosophy everywhere, and you should. So obviously with boots and stuff like that, think about the socks you're wearing, think about the insulation level of your boots, stuff like that. But more importantly, mittens and hats. These are chopper mittens that I got from LL Bean a very long time ago, but you can get chopper mittens basically anywhere. And layering is important here because you have your breathable layer and then your less breathable layer. On the hat front, obviously, think about if your jacket is going to have a hood or not. You can get a regular beanie like this or a watch cap. Oh, this one, by the way, I'm what you call a night runner. I like to go for runs when it's pitch black outside. So my mom got me a glowing beanie for Christmas. You can get a beanie, a watch cap, you can get a trapper hat, you can get a balaclava, because I feel like the worst part when I'm outside is always my mouth and my nose. So get a gaiter if you don't get a balaclava, but that's layering, that's basic systems. Okay, part 2. We are moving on to outerwear, and we're starting with the outermost section of outerwear, which is the outside. So typically that's going to be cotton, or sorry, not cotton. That's the one thing that I didn't want to say. It's typically going to be nylon or going to be wool. What's obviously great about nylon is it's just incredibly strong. You could, a baseline that's not always true is it's about 2 times as strong as cotton at a similar weight. So that is why you can get nylon to be very soft and thin. You can make interesting pockets on down jackets because you don't have to worry about really thick 30 ounce, 24 or 27 ounce wool. The one thing I wanted to say when you are shopping for a down jacket, if there is nylon, is typically try to go as heavy as you can with the nylon. The nylon is very strong, but it does have its limits. So if you're looking for a jacket that you're going to wear, hopefully for years and years and years, this jacket, although it's cool, you probably see a lot of people duct taping and repairing it because this is specifically made for people that want very little weight on their pack if they're hiking or they're doing something strenuous. And then we have little old wool. What's cool about wool is nylon is protecting down or holding down inside of the jacket. That's the insulation layer. Wool is the insulation. So by that, you get a much heavier jacket. You either really like that or you don't really like that. I happen to really like that. Wool is more breathable. It's a tougher fabric because of the weight that comes with it. It's antibacterial. It's insulating when wet. It's odor resistant. You hardly ever have to wash it. There's a ton of cool things about it, but for me, the coolest thing about wool is that it feels much more alive. It feels much more like a heritage piece versus down jackets, which could be. That Eddie Bauer that I showed you certainly before is one, but there's something about wool that I just freaking love. This is the mammoth jacket, but also can't just recommend the Iron Snail on the Iron Snail. That's no way to run a channel. Filson, Weather Wool, shout out to Ralph. Johnston Woolen Mills, I know where they get their wool, good stuff. Duckworth, Vintage, Woolrich, Pendleton, Gloverall, Shot for pea coats. And then of course, there's the good old Iron Snail. The goal of the Iron Snail, if you don't know, is to be far beyond the grade, to make stuff absolutely the best that it possibly can be. And the reason I'm telling you this very quickly is because there's a lot of people signed up to get mammoths right now and not a lot of mammoths in existence. So please, if you are at all interested in one, sign up for the email list because I will be emailing everybody in around a week to guarantee everybody gets a mammoth this year. Ignore this. This is I wear all the sample pieces, so this is now tucked. The one thing I did want to say about wool though is it's extra imperative that you layer with wool because wool is just Naturally not as warm as down because you can loft it out. Layering with wool is when it becomes unstoppable. Okay, now this is the true nerdy detail section. This is my favorite part of the video. This is also the most frustrating part of the video because you will quickly learn it's almost impossible for manufacturers to tell you how warm your jacket actually is compared to anything, because that's where you have to trust the 1 out of 5 warmth or 3 snowflakes instead of 2 snowflakes. You'll notice Weatherwool, who makes a very, very heavy, beautiful winter jacket. They'll say their wool, if we're talking about ounces, is 18.5, 19 ounces. Filson will say theirs is 24.5 ounces. Weatherwool's is actually heavier by a pretty large degree because Weatherwool is measuring on a standard measurement. Filson is not really giving you all that information, but also the weight of the fabric doesn't always correspond to warmth, as we know, because down is lighter but warmer than wool. You could say, okay, this fabric is heavier, but this one is napped on both sides, so the loft is a lot higher, so it traps more air. Or this one is just woven tighter, this one is woven looser, this one has a DWR finish on it, this one has different size yarns, this one has this and that. You put all that together and it's very hard to say this jacket is warm in this range, because you also have to factor in the person wearing the jacket, their movement, their activities. So it's very hard to say with wool. Same with down, but down we can get a little nerdier on. The most popular measurement that you probably hear with down is fill power. So you see like 650 fill, 900 fill. Fill power is just how much space does down take up in a standardized container. 1 ounce of down, does it take up 900 cubic inches? 900 fill power. You can get mega efficient down with big plumes that's very proud to be around, and you can compress that a lot. It's warmer for lighter weight. So there's a lot of cool things about it. But immediately, a problem is the humidity levels or the moisture levels really affect high efficiency downs. So I was reading one study where in moderate humidity, 1,000 fill power down jacket performed the same as a 750 fill power down jacket. We're already in the weeds, and let me tell you, we're gonna get in a lot more weeds because that's how efficient the down is, but you also need to know how much down there is in the jacket. So that's fill weight, which manufacturers commonly don't even put on a jacket. And then also finally, how is the jacket constructed? Something we do need to touch on very quickly, because we talked about this last video, is downfill construction types. First type of construction, sewn through construction. We take a pillow, we sew right down the middle, you get cold spots on either side. Then we have box construction, which literally picture a box. So this helps the down because we're not compressing it on the sides. There's also offset baffle construction, which is sewn through construction, but done a little differently and done twice and then offset. So you lose those cold pockets, but again, takes longer to construct. But also, which we'll talk about in a second, there is now woven baffles and bonded baffles, which we'll talk about the LL Bean jacket at the end of the video when we tie in synthetic as well. In every article that I've read, every video that I watched, everybody's like, okay, wool when it's wet outside, it's great, it insulates when wet, you'll be totally fine. Synthetic, also fine, will dry really fast and be fine. Down sucks and you'll die. And frankly, I mean, it's not the best. It's the worst out of all the three, but we talk about it like if a drop of water hits you, your jacket's gonna explode and you'll die. Oh, also, I forgot to say, I bought a ton of down jackets on eBay. I don't need a ton of down jackets. I only wear like mine and one other. So this was gonna be a Christmas video, just way behind schedule. I'm gonna donate all of these to the Jacket Foundation in Maine. So I'll be at the jacket drive. Like, okay, so this one is actually an Eddie Bauer K2 Egyptian cotton nylon mix with like a 450 fill live pluck down, which again, controversial in today's. The down clusters collapse when they get wet if they're not treated with anything. So I understand why you say down is useless in the rain because you'd rather be safe than sorry. But for the most part, unless you're going on crazy hikes and you have no other water resistant gear or anything like that, I think you'll be okay with down, especially with down modern technologies. Most down jackets now use Nick Wax or Down Tech or something like that. LL Bean uses Down Tech, and that is they are actually the spray that you spray on the outside of jackets. They put that on the down. So I'm sorry, I forget this guy's YouTube name. I'll put the channel in there. He's awesome. He makes awesome videos, but he does one where he throws his down jacket in the water, puts it back on. He's fine, it's insulated. You can do that, and there's a lot of technology that makes it easier and easier and easier. But there's also waterproof membranes. Gore-Tex is insane. The idea that someone took something that was waterproof, extended it really fast, and all of a sudden it was still waterproof, but it let vapor pass through it so it was more breathable. is insane. Everybody brings up the fact that, you know, there's nothing special about Gore-Tex anymore because it patent expired. You can get any other brand, and that's true. But the one thing that is great about Gore-Tex is they have a crazy warranty, a crazy testing lab. So with Gore-Tex, you get that guarantee, essentially. The tough part is, though, the original formula of Gore-Tex, and what still a lot of companies are using, it actually, PFAS, essentially, is what I'm getting at. It got banned because it's not that great for the environment or people, and by not that great, it's there's no acceptable level of PFAS in our water system at all. Which, that part, I'm like, none? No level? That can't be good. Waterproof membranes will also sometimes delaminate. Some people can have a Gore-Tex membrane or a waterproof membrane for 30 years with no problem, and Gore-Tex does have a great warranty, but sometimes your jacket will bubble and look weird, and sometimes it gets to the point where there's just nothing you can really do. You also need to keep applying a DWR finish onto your jacket, which is what you see when water is beating off of jackets. Otherwise, Gore-Tex, while it will stay waterproof, will wet out and not be breathable, so you'll lose a little bit of a benefit there. You're getting a more complex system, which is harder to maintain. You have to work harder to maintain it, but it is very convenient outdoors if you do. But the reason I'm bringing all this up is because we're going to go back to just mega simplicity in 1 second, and that, to me, is the most important thing when you're trying to get the winter jacket. Modern down jacket technology, insanely cool. The stuff that's happening, aerogel being implemented into jackets, I think eventually winter jackets are going to be foam. I think this is all very old school now, and in 20 years we'll just wear foam, like Crocs. I think that's what we'll be doing. The reason I'm saying that is because you don't want to just get caught up and think you need new gear immediately because something else got released, but it is cool to know what the new gear does. So I introduce you the jacket that all of your rich neighbors are wearing. You'll see all the little square baffles and stuff like that. Those are really cool. Instead of there being these giant sewn through baffles, there's little boxes and little lines throughout the jacket. This is where me and my friends would sled down when we were kids. We'd go right down this little thing. Windstopper jacket. LL Bean and a lot of other brands are using a double weave fabric, and usually double weave is reserved for, you'll see it on like towels where like one side is orange, the other side is black. They have their double weave insulation, and as this lady on LL Bean says as well, they are weaving it together at points and opening it up at certain points, and really just little lines, they weave it together. And they're making baffles out of a singular fabric with no stitching. And that's sick. Since there's no stitching, the water's not coming through, the wind isn't coming through, you don't have to worry about down leaking out as really at all. So you can make the fabric stretchy because you have that flexibility there, so the jacket's even more comfortable. Okay, so let's go down the sledding hill and finally go over the winter jacket selection system. How, with all of this information, how to pick out a winter jacket that you will love. It's very complex, it's very rigorous. First thing you need to do is see what you have. Do you have a base layer? Do you have a mid layer? Do you have a down jacket at all? Second thing I recommend you do is just note your general, what are you going to use the jacket for? Is it just to get into the car? Are you going to be walking for a very long time? What's the temperature, climate around you? All those factors. Does it rain a lot? Is it very windy? So on and so forth. Next thing you need to do, go for a walk. Walk up and down the street for 1 hour and stop at 30 minutes and see how do you feel, where are you cold? And the second thing to note down is, are you too hot? Are you wearing a big jacket and thinking like, whew, I am going to sweat, but I can't take this jacket off because I am wearing a t-shirt under it? Once you have that information, has this been on the whole time? Before you go on any websites, I would recommend just picture the most simple, this is the Rab sewn through lightweight jacket you possibly can, and then build the jacket out. So do you need a hood? If you need a hood, yes. Is this probably not warm enough? Okay, then puff it up a little bit. Break it down into its simplest form, and the chances are, if you have a good layering system to go with it, you will be far more comfortable when you are out and about. And I feel like most people are gonna go with, you know, the North Face McMurdo, the Stormcraft, you know, the ultimate jacket. But there are a lot of benefits to picking out the jacket that works really well for you. So the Marmot Guide jacket, much better today for me than Outdoor Research. And then even better would be a lighter weight jacket because I'm hiking. But you can also go the vintage route. And they're all really great, and this is very effective. If you don't live in a very wet place and you don't need a ton of length, this is a great jacket. So you can go on eBay and just find crazy stuff. Jackets from the 70s, so cool. Ski jackets, absolutely wild. So I just feel like that's a lot of fun. And transitioning to the last thing that we had to talk about, down is also very heirloom grade because it's very resistant to compression. It won't stay compressed if you squish it down. And I love that because that is the only reason I don't really like synthetic. Once you pick out your jacket, the last thing I'd recommend is if it's not eBay and not used, check to see, you know, Patagonia has an insane repair policy. I've heard some people just bring in whatever to certain locations and they'll fix it. So check to see if you can get your jacket repaired, what the warranty is, and then just go at it. Anyways, I hope that was helpful somewhat. I hope there was something in there that you found useful. If you didn't, sorry for wasting your time. I will see you all Next week, we're talking about Rolex. Ooh.